Have you ever thought about what would happen if, one day, the people you loved the most turned their backs on you? Imagine finding yourself in a moment of vulnerability, hoping for comfort and support, but instead, you are met with silence. Those you thought would be there for you abandon you when you need them most. How would you cope with such a betrayal? How would you survive when the very ones you trusted turn away in your time of need? This is the story of Eleanor, a woman who experienced the heartbreaking betrayal of being abandoned by her son. It's a real-life story filled with raw emotion, and it carries lessons of resilience, strength, and self-discovery. Eleanor's journey will resonate with anyone who has ever felt misunderstood, isolated, or left behind, especially in their later years. Eleanor's life was not simply marked by loss. It became a powerful story of finding strength in the face of adversity, embracing self-love, and learning the healing power of forgiveness. She was abandoned when her son, whom she had dedicated her life to, turned his back on her in the most painful way. First came the cold rejection, and then the ultimate betrayal, losing her beloved family home. But instead of allowing herself to drown in despair, Eleanor found the courage to stand tall and reclaim her sense of worth. This video will take you on an emotional journey through Eleanor's highs and lows, showing how she navigated through one of the toughest chapters of her life. You'll witness her transformation, from feeling like a broken woman to finding peace within herself. Eleanor's story teaches us that no matter how tough life gets, no matter the betrayal we face, we all have the power to heal and to rediscover our inner strength. Stay with us until the end, and you will learn how to build your resilience, protect your heart from future betrayals, and find peace even when life seems unbearable. This video is not just about Eleanor's journey. It's a reminder that we all can rise from our struggles, to forgive ourselves, and to move forward with clarity and strength. So, if you're not yet subscribed, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Your support is everything to me, and if you enjoy this content, feel free to share it with others who might benefit from these lessons. It means the world to me and helps spread important messages about personal growth and healing. And if you find this video meaningful, please leave a comment saying, 1. If there's something you feel could be improved, I'd love to hear from you. Just drop a 0 in the comments to let me know. I truly value your feedback as I continue working to create better content. Let's dive into the story now, starting with a pivotal moment in Eleanor's life. One day, Eleanor's son came to visit. They sat together in the quiet of her living room, sipping tea. Hesitantly, Eleanor broke the silence, her voice softer than usual. "If it's possible, I've been thinking about maybe living with you someday." Her son, a tall man in his early 40s, didn't respond immediately. The seconds dragged on, and then Eleanor heard her daughter-in-law's voice from the other room. "That's not going to work. We're not planning to take care of anyone. These days, people need to manage their own lives." Eleanor's hand trembled slightly as she held her teacup. Her son didn't deny his wife's words. He didn't speak, but his silence was deafening. Eleanor forced a smile, her voice barely above a whisper as she nodded. "I see. Times have changed." But her voice quivered with emotion, betraying the pain she was trying to hide. After her son left, Eleanor sat on her porch, the cool evening air brushing against her face as she gazed up at the sky. The chrysanthemums in her garden were beginning to bloom, their soft colors a quiet reminder of the passage of time. "If I collapsed, who would notice?" she wondered quietly, the thought lingering in her mind like a shadow. It was a question that would haunt her, making her feel more and more invisible as the days passed. That night, a fierce storm rolled in. Rain pounded against the windows, and the wind howled through the cracks, bringing an eerie chill into the house. Eleanor soaked in the bath, as she did every evening. "My legs feel a little heavier today," she murmured to herself. She tried to stand up from the tub, but as she shifted her weight, her feet slipped on the wet surface. Her body tilted, and before she knew it, she was falling. A sharp pain shot through her lower back as she hit the cold tile floor. The chill of the floor seeped into her skin, making her bones ache. Eleanor reached out with trembling arms, but her legs refused to cooperate. She lay there, helpless and alone. This isn't just a bruise, she thought, her mind racing as she fought to stay calm. With great effort, she dragged herself toward the bathroom door, reaching for the phone that lay just out of her grasp. Her voice, hoarse and weak, barely made it out as she called for help. "I've fallen. I can't move my legs." The ambulance arrived soon after, and Eleanor was rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis was a fractured right hip, a blow that would take months to recover from. The doctor's words echoed in her mind, 3 months for recovery, including rehab. Eleanor nodded, her heart heavy with the realization that her life as she knew it was slipping away. The thought of never returning to her home weighed on her chest like a stone. The next day, her son arrived at the hospital. He stood at the door, hesitating before approaching her bed. "Are you okay, Mom?" he asked, his voice filled with uncertainty, his eyes not meeting hers. Eleanor forced a smile, trying to reassure him. "I'm fine, don't worry. The doctor said I'll get better soon." But the words that followed cut deeper than any physical pain she had felt. "You know, I've got a lot of work, and it's hard to take care of you at home right now. So, I think it'd be better if you stayed in a facility until you finish rehab. It's safer that way." Eleanor's heart sank as she processed his words. His tone was detached, as if he were making a business decision rather than offering support to his mother. There was no mention of her recovery at home, no promise to help her in any way. And his wife, not even once, had come to see her. With a heavy heart, Eleanor swallowed the bitter taste in her mouth. She nodded silently, trying her best to smile, though her voice trembled, betraying the sadness she felt inside. A few weeks later, Eleanor was transferred to a care facility. The walls were sterile white, the air far too still, and there were no familiar flowers or winding paths like in her garden. Through the window, all she could see was the neighboring building, a stark reminder of how far she had been removed from the life she once knew. The wind outside was eerily quiet, and the sky felt distant, as if it had forgotten her existence. She sat in that lonely room, a prisoner of circumstance, and the thought crossed her mind again. Was she invisible now? Would anyone care if she were gone? Eleanor often found herself lying awake at night, her thoughts drifting back to the home she had built with so much love over the years. How is my house doing? Is anyone taking care of the plants, the garden, and the family heirlooms? She wondered to herself, the quiet ache of separation settling in. But deep inside, she knew the truth. The house would soon become cold, forgotten by the people who had once filled it with laughter and life. Eleanor slowly closed her eyes, allowing herself to reflect on the life she once had. Will I ever return to that house? Or has that chapter of my life already closed forever? A deep sense of unease began to take root in her heart, growing quietly but steadily. She had lived there for so many years, watching the seasons change in the garden and creating memories in every corner of the house. But now, it felt like all of that was slipping away. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. At first, her son came to visit her once a month. These visits, though infrequent, were the only joy Eleanor had. "How's the rehab going, Mom?" he would ask, his voice warm, but distant. "I'm fine, thank you. Everyone here is so kind," Eleanor would reply, even though she couldn't help but feel a growing sadness. Those brief exchanges, even if hurried, were enough to light a small flame of warmth inside her. Though the visits were short, they still felt like precious moments of connection with the family she had once known. But as the months went by, those visits became fewer. 1 month passed, then 2, and eventually 3 months went by without a single word from him. Was he too busy? Or was there something more? Eleanor felt an unease growing in her chest. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, so she decided to call him, but the phone just kept ringing and ringing, unanswered. He might be out. He'll call me back, she thought to herself, hanging up the phone. But the return call never came. Days turned into weeks, and still no word from her son. The silence was deafening. Then, a few days later, a familiar face from her old neighborhood appeared at the care facility. It was a kind neighbor who had known Eleanor for years. "Eleanor, don't be shocked, but I passed by your house recently," the neighbor said. "I saw a new nameplate on the door. I checked, and it looks like the house is no longer under your name." Eleanor's heart nearly stopped when she heard that. What? The house she had built with her own hands, the garden where she had spent countless hours tending to her plants, and the home where she had created so many memories with her family. It was all slipping away, and she had no idea. She could hardly believe it. Her mind raced, and she asked the facility staff to help her confirm the truth. When they checked with the municipal office, the devastating truth came to light. The ownership of the house had been transferred to her son's name just a few weeks before while she was in the hospital. Eleanor's knees almost gave out when she heard the news. "So, he's been distancing himself from the house in his heart without telling me," she thought, her body shaking as she absorbed the enormity of what had just been revealed. She couldn't believe it at first, but after confirming it with the authorities, the truth was undeniable, and it hurt more than she could have imagined. That house was mine, but now it's his. The paperwork had been done without her knowledge, without her consent, and now, the place that had once felt like home no longer belonged to her. Eleanor's knees buckled beneath her, and as she quietly nodded, tears began to fall. "I never thought he would do this to me," she whispered, her heart breaking as the finality of the situation set in. The home she had given everything to, the house that had been her sanctuary, was now something she would never be able to return to. The betrayal she felt was deep, and in that moment, Eleanor realized how truly alone she was. Days passed slowly. Eleanor, feeling the weight of isolation in her heart, found an old notebook she had kept for years. She stroked the cover gently, a soft sigh escaping her lips as she whispered to herself, "If one day I can't speak anymore." Her hands were unsteady as she opened the notebook, her fingers trembling with the weight of the words she needed to write. She slowly turned the pages, her mind racing, but she pushed forward, writing the first words that came to her, "I wanted to go back home." The next words she penned were quieter, more personal. These words were only for her, a confession of everything she had kept buried deep inside. She didn't want to blame anyone. She simply wanted to express a wish, a quiet yearning to see the place of her memories just once more, before time took it all away. Writing in the notebook brought her a rare, quiet peace. It was as if each word was a silent prayer, offering comfort to her soul. When she reached the end of the notebook, she wrote something that felt both heavy and freeing. "I hope there will be a day when my voice can be heard." She placed the notebook gently in the drawer next to her bed, knowing that no one would ever see it. But it was there, tucked away, proof of her life, of the woman she had been, and the mother she had tried so hard to be. A few days later, as Eleanor sat on a bench in the facility's garden, she noticed a new kind of visitor approaching her. A man in a suit walked beside her son, his face stern and emotionless, and he carried a thick envelope. Eleanor felt an unsettling unease stir within her as she watched them approach. "Mom, do you have a moment?" her son asked, his voice strained. He led her into the facility's consultation room, where the man in the suit silently took a seat at the table, setting the envelope down in front of him. Eleanor's heart sank as she saw the serious expression on her son's face. The man in the suit opened the envelope and laid several documents on the table, all of them filled with legal jargon. Eleanor's gaze fell on the bold print at the bottom of one of the pages. All assets and rights transferred to one person. She looked up at her son, her heart racing, and said quietly, "So, You want me to sign over everything, including my house and pension, to you? Her son avoided her gaze, his voice soft but firm. Yeah, but this is for your peace of mind. I want to make sure everything's in order in case something happens. Eleanor felt a chill run through her, but she kept her voice steady as she pushed the papers back across the table. I see. There was no anger in her voice, but a deep sadness that she could not hide. I trust you. You're kind, and you care for your family, but... She paused, her gaze unwavering. I'm still capable of thinking for myself. It's too soon to leave everything to you. Her son's expression shifted, a flicker of frustration passing over his face. So, you're rejecting me as your family? He asked, his voice growing sharper. Eleanor shook her head slowly, her voice gentle but resolute. No, as your mother, I have to say this. There's a strength in letting go, and there's also a strength in protecting yourself. The room was heavy with silence after her words. Eleanor knew this moment would change everything, but she also knew she had to stand firm. She couldn't give away everything she had worked so hard for, not without a fight, not without reclaiming her voice. Her son was shaken, his face betraying a mix of confusion and hurt. Are you saying you don't trust me? He asked, his voice tight with emotion. Eleanor smiled gently, a quiet calmness settling over her. I trust you, but this is different. I must make my own decisions while I still can. There was a long silence between them as her son processed her words. But in that moment, Eleanor knew she had done the right thing. She had found her voice, and she wasn't going to let it slip away, no matter how hard the conversation was. In the days that followed, Eleanor learned that the legal documents her son had presented to her were not valid. Her wishes had taken precedence, and the rights to her belongings and life decisions remained hers. Still, it didn't bring her peace. Her son, it seemed, had turned away completely. No calls, no letters. The silence was deafening. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Despite the emotional abandonment, Eleanor chose to continue living her life on her terms. She went back to her quiet routine, tending to her garden, caring for herself, and enjoying the small, yet profound, joys of independence. She had rediscovered a quiet strength within herself, a strength that had always been there but had been buried beneath the weight of her sacrifices. Several months later, the facility staff approached her with an invitation to join a group called Sharing Life Stories. It was a program designed for older adults to share their experiences and wisdom with younger generations. At first, Eleanor hesitated. She was still healing from the emotional wounds that had been inflicted upon her, but she also realized this could be a chance to give back, to share the lessons she had learned the hard way. With a soft nod, she agreed, I'll join. At the first meeting, the other residents began sharing their stories, some of triumph, others of loss, but all of them marked by wisdom gained through years of living. As she listened, something deep within Eleanor stirred, a desire to speak her truth, to share what she had learned. When her turn came, she stood up, feeling a bit nervous but resolute. I may have failed as a mother, she began, her voice steady, but I've learned to forgive myself. I've learned to love myself. The room grew quiet, and the young students from a nearby university who had come to listen to the stories seemed intrigued. One of them asked, Do you still resent your son? Eleanor smiled gently, the weight of her past not lost on her, but her heart at peace. No, I don't. After all, I've learned to love myself. The students looked surprised at her answer, and Eleanor took the opportunity to explain further. I've learned that loving someone doesn't mean erasing yourself. I've chosen to continue loving my son, even though that trust was broken. The students listened intently, some nodding in understanding. Eleanor knew that this was a lesson they could carry with them into their own lives. With a newfound sense of freedom, Eleanor continued to live in peace. She realized that forgiveness is not something we give to others. It's something we give to ourselves to move forward. She had learned that letting go of anger and pain allowed her to find peace within her own heart, and with that peace, she felt a weight lift from her soul. Eleanor shared her life lessons with the group, and they all listened intently. As she concluded, she spoke from a place of deep wisdom and self-awareness. Family is important, but it's not always a safe place. You must protect your heart and believe in your worth. Even if others reject you, if you keep believing in yourself, that belief will save you. Eleanor had learned to embrace her own strength and her own worth. And with that, she was ready to continue living her life, not defined by the past, but empowered by her ability to move forward on her own terms. As we come to the end of Eleanor's incredible journey, I hope you found inspiration in her story of resilience, forgiveness, and the power of self-love. Eleanor faced the deepest betrayal from those she loved, yet through it all, she found the strength to rise again. Her journey teaches us all that no matter what life throws our way, we can find peace within ourselves if we choose to forgive, move forward, and protect our hearts. So, what have you learned from Eleanor's story? What lessons stood out to you the most, and how do you plan to bring it into your own life? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below and share one thing you've learned from her journey. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue sharing more valuable stories and life lessons with you. Your support means so much, and it helps us reach more people who can benefit from these powerful messages. Thank you for watching, and remember, even in the hardest times, we can always choose to live with strength, peace, and love.